Hi, my dear Astro family. Today I'm here with Sweti, and we are going to be discussing the Saturn and Jupiter square, which just recently took place on the 24th of December, the second one. The very first one happened on 19th of August. We might be a little bit late with it, but actually we are not because the full moon is pretty much highlighting this Saturn and Jupiter square anyway. So we decided to break it down even for the 12 signs as well. So you might want to stay till the very end. So Etty is going to talk to you more about the personal level, and I'm going to be talking about the economical level because there have been some requests to prepare some videos about how the economy is looking like, what's worth in investing into, and so forth. So I decided, okay, let's kind of do that. Long time no see on my channel. How have you been?
Yes, indeed. Well, it's been a mixed bag, let's say. It's been a very hectic year for me. But now I think I'm getting into the right trail, so to say. So everything seems to be evolving finally in a good way, hopefully. But let's see, with this square, I don't know what to believe. So I'm still very
Yeah.
cautious and like not trying to be so emotional. But yeah, it's hard for someone with five planets in water signs. So yeah, but it's good.
Okay, so let's see what we've got. But if you would like to have a reading with Sveti, then she's actually having a New Year promotion, 30% discount on her predictive reading. So if you are interested, check that out. You can go on my website, AstroViktor.com, and you can book a reading with her. I think she has got availabilities now for February, the second part of February.
Yes,
Yeah,
after
the end of
mid-February.
the year
Yeah.
is always very busy for us as well. Only available readings I've got is mid March or beginning of April as well, if you wish to have a reading with me. So, Sveti, what did you prepare for us about Saturn and Jupiter?
Well, about Saturn and Jupiter, it's important to say because these are social planets, especially Saturn is slow moving. It takes like 30 years to make a whole circle around the astrological chart and to go through all the signs. And Jupiter, it takes 12 years. So when we have a certain aspect between two planets, generally, this is a part of a cycle which began with the Saturn Jupiter conjunction, actually, in December 2020, if you remember, at the 0 degree of Aquarius. So this square, it's the opening square, which means the first aspect after the conjunction, the first square after the conjunction, indeed, not the first aspect. So it will be related to whatever actually happened back in 2020 in relation to this conjunction of Saturn and Jupiter at the 0 degree of Aquarius. And it was actually a great conjunction because it just changed the element where it takes place. It has been taking place in Earth signs, I think, before 2020, and now we'll have 200 years where the conjunction will be taking place only in air signs. And this is something really huge because this year actually we are going to have the same on many levels where all the collective planets Saturn, Neptune, Pluto will be changing from earth and water into fire and air. So the energy will definitely be totally shifted. And it will be very difficult to say which event is due to what, because it's going to be really a huge mix and a huge transformation, a huge change, a huge shift for the whole humanity. And because these are the social planets, whatever happens on the social plane will be very important, and actually it will have an effect on the personal level as well, but it will be more global events taking place, which will reflect onto the personal level. And I'm in terms of Saturn and Jupiter square on the personal level, it's actually very much related to what we believe and what kind of efforts we need to put in order to follow our own truth. But with the square, it might feel like there are, I don't know, opportunities or some external obstacles are preventing us from following our dreams, or maybe we don't find ourselves as easily at the right place at the right time, and something always happens. Kind of, we might feel this frustration, especially emotionally, because Saturn is in Pisces, ruling the emotional world. So a kind of emotional frustration, why things are not happening exactly right now and why are there no opportunities. We might come to feel very pessimistic about things, especially in view of the fact that Jupiter in Gemini is in detriment. So it doesn't feel very well there, and we might be questioning our beliefs a lot as well, but more based on the emotional, on how we feel. And it's like we feel frustrated, but somehow we have no idea why at one point. Yeah, so that's the general energy of the square, I think.
I think because it's an opening square, and that always reminds us a little bit like the Aries and the Cancerian energies. So
Yeah.
often it's about an inner foundation. I think the Saturn-Jupiter cycle often, let's say from a mundane point of view, it's going to talk to us about major points or major turning points in the society. Often we see that the rise and fall of empires, and often we see actually a death of a major political figure as well, or introduction of new political systems, um, or it could even show that somehow there is a shift going on in the structure of society. And as I think on a personal level, it's very important to remember, by the way, that you might want to be revisiting what went down in 2020 in your life, where you planted the seeds, because in any ways, this square is an adjustment around those events that took place. So, for example, I'm going to give my personal example here. That took place in my 12th house by whole sign house system. And that is exactly the time when I started the transformation of my body. So this time around, maybe I'm going to have to be re-evaluating the entire way of approaching this weight loss journey, for example, and so forth. And according to the house position, of course, Jupiter is in and Saturn resides in that moment of that square.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and now that you mentioned your personal example, I can also give mine, because for me, the conjunction of Saturn and Jupiter in Aquarius took place in the fourth house system, and it's all about my family. Ever since 2020, my mom got sick, then she passed away, and you know my story, but I'll tell it for the others. Then my dad stopped talking to me like a week after she passed, and we are still not in good terms. But now with the square, there is some development. It's very slow, and there are some signs which I kind of see as opportunities. But then when I consider them rationally, because Jupiter is in Gemini, so I'm rationalizing things, because kind of I'm afraid to go on the emotional plane with Saturn in Pisces. I don't want to be too emotional because I got hurt. And kind of when I rationalize things, I see that it's actually the old things in a new way. And I don't feel really satisfied with this result and this development. So it's a kind of a milestone where there is this opportunity to change things, but they don't change the way I really expect and not as per my beliefs. So things seem to be changing, but not exactly. They kind of, in the background, they remain quite absolutely the same. So nothing changing in there, although I really wished for it. And also because it's a mutable square, it's all about adjustments and changes, not only because it's a square, but more because it's mutable. It's maybe learning and finding ways to become more flexible and to become more to see further opportunities and to be a little bit out of the box also taking this Aquarian energy. And something really important going on with both squares, the first one which took place in August 2024 this year, and now the one on the 24th of December, we have Pluto at 0 degrees of Aquarius, and this is not an accident. So this energy is really highlighted, and all the things that happened back in 2020 actually now with this opening square, it's really time to adjust, to see if there are any new opportunities, and somehow see what we can take from, what lesson we can take, because Saturn and Jupiter, they're both teachers, and it's all about learning something. With the square, maybe the hard way, maybe getting disappointed, and maybe leveling up your expectations about things, and how things should go maybe is not the way things are best for us. What we think, maybe we need to adjust our belief system, maybe we need to compromise here and there, and level up with
It's
reality.
interesting what you said because often people think that Saturn is not necessarily a spiritual planet, and it's not. That's
Mm,
actually not true.
mm.
Saturn is actually in traditional astrology considered one of the most spiritual planets of all. And when we look at the symbol of Saturn, which has got kind of like a little bit of a crescent moon face, it's kind of like Jupiter is the upside down version of
Yes.
Saturn. So they are two completely different um, polarities. But what happens with Saturn, with the glimpse of it, that it says spirituality has got a limit. So, and maybe Saturn in the sign of Pisces is trying to teach us that we don't need to become overly spiritual because Jupiter has got a tendency to overstretch itself. We need a lot of practicality in our life as well. So it's a little bit like, okay, Jupiter in Gemini wants us to collect all the information that we've got out there and then learning about different facets of truth and so forth. But Saturn says, you know what, great to be spiritual. If you are no spiritual person at all, that's not helping you either. But if you do spiritual, then it's a big problem as well, because you might not be able to see the reality. And it feels like that this aspect, on one hand, is definitely asking us to adjust our belief system around that. Pisces is very much connected to our subconscious, so the fears must be blocked out. And Gemini is quite a researcher, so we're going to have to be able to research the knowledge out there, whether it's true or not. So it looks like not only our faith is going to get tested, but also whether we have got the right knowledge or we have got enough knowledge. So we might need to be doing a lot more self-mastering. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And also with the first square, actually in August, we had Jupiter retrograde, while now, or was it vice
No, the
versa?
other way
No, we
around.
had
Saturn was
Saturn. Yeah,
retrograde the
we
first
had
time,
Saturn
this time
retrograde,
Jupiter.
and now we have Jupiter retrograde. So the adjustment was first on the plane of Saturnian issues, and Saturnian, like the fears, what prevents us from acting, what's our emotional blockage, the inner blockages that we have to move on, and what actually prevents us on the subconscious level, as you mentioned, to actually reach our goals, to see the long-term perspective, to see the whole forest instead of looking at the trees. And now with Jupiter retrograde, it's time to reconcile on our belief system. Now, kind of the blockages, we worked on the blockages, and now we can move on with our inner structural belief system, so that we can also adjust the goals, not only the means to reach the goal. And once this square is over, the third one, actually, it takes place in different signs. Saturn will already be in Aries, and Jupiter will be exalted in Cancer. So it will be a nice thing, I think, in terms of kind of achieving and really seeing the long-term goals and be more optimistic already, like finding a sigh of relief in a way to reaching further with the goals. Also, at the moment, the first two squares, we have Jupiter ruling Saturn. So there is also this connection because Saturn is in Pisces and Jupiter is the ancient ruler of Pisces. So, but Jupiter, it doesn't feel well in the energy of Gemini. So it we feel like something or someone is supporting, but not exactly. So we really need to be, and then it builds up on this frustration, kind of. It's really building up on the frustration. So while with the third square, it will not be the case. And I really think it's going to be a cardinal square. It's related to actions, to taking actions already, not only to adjusting, but also adjusting and taking action, and like fighting for what you really want to achieve with Saturn in Aries, where we fight for ourselves and where we will have the long-term goals. And now we have the plan how to go forward and to push through. So yeah,
Do you
that's
have the
something I want.
degrees of what degree they got activated? So if I'm
The
not mistaken,
third,
the first one was 17 Gemini to 17 Pisces. The next one
I
is 14 Gemini to 14
yes, and
Pisces.
the third one is 1 degree 18 minutes, I think it was. I
Yeah.
have it. Yeah, 1 degree 18 minutes. It's going
You
to
know
be.
why I find it fascinating is because on the 23rd, 24th of December, actually the 1 degree Aries got activated because we had the Sun nodal T square happening. So I would say that you need to be going back to the 23rd, 24th of December and kind of noting down what went down in your life because that sun already highlighted it for us. And then
Yes.
now the full moon taking place on the 30th of December even highlights it more. So I want to talk a little bit about this sun square nodes because it really feels like that the sun squaring the north node as well as squaring the south node, it looks like this ongoing Saturn-Jupiter square is really telling us that we need to stop being a people pleaser. We need to be
Yes.
stop procrastinating and sitting on the fences and maybe looking down on people. Because unfortunately, Jupiter and Saturn both have got a tendency to be judgmental in different ways, though, but they can be both judgy. So we need to be stopping to kind of just hide behind others or, oh, yeah, the needs of others, and I have to be kind of pleasing them and basically licking their butts shiny because that's what the society kind of expects us to do. So once Saturn moves into the sign of Aries, that's going to be highly about whether you've got the strength, the stamina, and the courage to actually go really hard towards something that is your vision. And that's the Jupiterian energy. So with
Yes.
this Sun and Sun T square with I'm just looking at the current political situation. Of course, maybe what happens is that we are all kind of like scratching our head. What is Russia gonna do, for example? Is the past gonna repeat, and that's the South Node, or is that we're gonna grow up and then kind of become more mature? Because the focal point is the sun, which says we need to be respectful, we need to be mature, we need to grow up, we need to kind of focus on stability, we need to build new structures, we need to build a lot of things basically. And
Yes.
that's why, on a personal level, you have to let go of the past because the past is holding us back.
Yes, exactly. And also, I have very often seen that solutions to T-squares happen in the opposite sign of the apex of the triangle because it forms like an arrow. And practically in this T-square, between the sun and the nodes, Jupiter in Cancer will be this point exactly at 1 degree 18 minutes in 2025 in June. So maybe, just maybe, we will finally be growing up, not to mention that Jupiter will be the ruler of the nodes at that time because they will shift signs. And I see this as really a good opportunity to align on a more mundane global level, I mean, to align everyone's goals. And because Cancer is a very nurturing sign and protective and taking care of, and maybe see how war and all the disagreements and whatever happens on the, on this plane is actually hurting everyone, and maybe there could be some hope. Although we have the square with Saturn Neptune conjunction, still it will take time to develop the energy, but still it's going to be a decision of whether to stay at war, Aries energy, or to take care of the people and to take care of, of the whole humanity. If we think about Aquarius and the 0 degree conjunction of Saturn Jupiter back in 2020, when things probably started developing before the war, and so there was probably some conflict going on which we didn't see back then. So maybe it's also related to this on the more mundane level. And of course, it's impossible to be separated from what's going on in the world. We all feel this on the inner level. And actually, there is this Ben Saduno. I don't know if you know him, but anyway, he says that any war that happens in the world, it's actually based on some energy that each of us carries. Like we have a war inside of us, and when we have something manifesting on the outside on a global level, this means that the only way to change something is to start the change from ourselves, to be the change that we want to see. So if we don't want to see war on the outside, we somehow need to work and to align our personal goals, to align our personal values, and to somehow be more kind, if possible, so that we integrate these conflicting energies within us so that they don't pile up and manifest on the global level. Yeah, otherwise, on a more personal level, Jupiter, it's like going to be felt as a conflict between expansion, which is Jupiter wanting to expand, wanting to move on, and restriction, which is Saturn. And as I mentioned, because Saturn is in Pisces, maybe we want these restrictions comes from mostly emotional blockages and some inner fears, subconscious fears that we carry, or even because Pisces is a collective sign, maybe some fears coming from the global realms, from the unconscious level, even deeper, like what we carry as karma, because Saturn is also something which is karmic, what we carry as karma on the humanity level, globally, not only on the personal plane. And I think that many of us feel this, like it's personal, but it's not. Kind of. It's very confusing, and Pisces is confusing anyway, because it brings this energy of confusion and not knowing where you are and who you are. But still, it feels even harder now, at least for me and people around me when we discuss this. So yeah, on the personal level, it's like a conflict between having something in excess, but at the same time lacking it. It feels like it's too much, but not exactly. And it's all the time. It's you have no idea what it is indeed. Like for example, on a personal level, we had huge layoffs at my company where I work. They laid off like 800-900 people in a day. They just sent them an email, and that was it. No discussion, no nothing. And everybody was really shocked. And those of us who stayed, who were lucky to stay, kind of, we didn't know what was going on. There is still this huge confusion, and there is this square: should I stay or should I go? What we have no idea.
Am
It's
I the
very
next?
confusing.
Or,
Yeah, yeah,
it really feels to me that also this Saturn Jupiter cycle combined with this T square with the nodes remind us that we all have got a reason to exist. and we all have got the right to exist. But we must be responsible and accountable for our own action. So basically, Saturn is the planet of reward, and this is really important to remember. I think the real growth always comes from Saturn. And I made a webinar about Saturn and its positive side, where I've spoken about the growth zone and how the growth zone is built up psychologically. But what I want to mention here is that Saturn in Aries is definitely going to be a reminder that if you don't take responsibility and you don't take actions to change something in your life, your vision is going to collapse. And yeah, often this is about depression and not being able to move forward, and life is meaningless when Jupiter is involved as well. But yes, hopefully Jupiter in the sign of Cancer is going to push up the hope of people quite significantly. Yeah, so I think we must come together in a way and then create a kind of like a mission statement for ourselves. So this is what I want to achieve. This is the reason of my karmic existence. That's the plan I'm going to come up with. This is how I am going to achieve that. And
Yes.
it's interesting that this current new moon tomorrow on the 30th has got a very exact conjunction to Pallas Athene, which is actually the win-win situation, which is about planning and pattern recognition. So it really feels like that if we are able to recognize certain type of patterns and failures, like Saturn is, for example, the planet of family legacy, and it's not just about your like parents, but the entire family legacy that you come from. So it's kind of like a little bit of a Soros family. Because Saturn has the planetary joy in the 12th house. And often what it says to us is that we need to be able to block out the family legacy and we need to be able to say goodbye to the past. And this is echoed by the Sun square South Node as well. Letting go of the past and moving towards the future is the solution. And Saturn is the time. So sometimes we're going to have to, this is Pluto in Aquarius, we're going to have to upgrade the ways that we have been doing things. So, for example, me, I have to be upgrading how I am going to be dealing with my weight loss journey and the bodybuilding journey that I'm planning now. For example, for Tsweti, because it took place in the fourth house, maybe she needs to be looking at the frame of her family signatures so that she's not going to be repeating the same mistake. For example, like her ancestry line kept doing somehow, and so forth.
Yes,
So this
and
is the way how I recommend looking at your own personal chart. Start where the conjunction took place and now where the square is taking place, and then try to blend those three houses.
yes,
But we're going to
exactly.
kind of break it down for you a little bit, very briefly, for the 12 signs as well.
Yes, and remember that it's a whole process. I just want to add to this that it's not going to happen overnight, and kind of the readjustments will take some time. And we will need to go through certain experiences which will be eye-opening, and it may feel very hard, but still remember to find ways to stay grounded and to always look for the lesson within something. Kind of use the acceptance of Pisces and let things go through you and just observe if possible. Make yourself a little bit like distant, like Saturn in Pisces would allow you this to take this distance from the emotions and see the objective, what's objective, the objective picture. And yeah, and it's going to be a whole process indeed. And we may be seeing with the third square in other signs already, we may be seeing the solution somehow, the resolution coming, So yeah, that's what I wanted to
Saturn
add.
and Jupiter together this time around is about slow growth.
Yes.
So we shouldn't be, as Tsveti said, we should not be expecting that there is going to be an immediate change.
Mm.
Jupiter is retrograde, so that is slowed down. We've got this big vision, we've got the big questions to ask. The answer might not be coming immediately. It's kind of like kissing frogs before one becomes a Prince Charming if it's connected, for example, to your seventh house now. And that's so important to remember. And because Jupiter is retrograde now, it is about inner growth as well and answering some of those inner questions that are kind of popping up within ourselves. Maybe we've got certain type of knowledge, and then does that help us to move forward, to go on that growth journey? Or maybe is that the one that is holding us back and it needs to be kind of flushed down on the toilet? Or do we believe in ourselves more? Or do we actually ask the right questions? Or do we know enough? Or do we know enough what to believe in to kind of create a better future for ourselves? So Saturn is the planet of fundamentals. We need to go back to basics and kind of start building up that vision again, what we've got, rather than trying to start right on top. And that's the problem. Jupiter is the top. This is the reason why Jupiter has got a tendency to look down on people a lot, because that represents the sky. Before Uranus was discovered, of course. That is the king of all, or that is the god of all gods. So the god is just looking down on you, and Jupiter has got the tendency to laugh at others when there is failure going on. So, yeah, probably there is going to be people who laugh at you, and then you just have to block them out. There is going to be countries who are going to be winning, for example, and countries who will be suffering quite significantly. Again, of course, from a political point of view. But do you care? Do you believe that this is possible to achieve what you are planning? Capricorn, Saturn is the mountain climber, but actually, Saturn or Capricorn was also associated with the sea goat as well. Interesting, because one is about the top, the other one is about the bottom. So sometimes we're gonna have to go down and suffer, and sometimes we're gonna be rising up. And I really feel like this square is about the rise this time around rather than the fall, because Jupiter will be exalted.
Yes, yes, I have the same feeling. And also, Saturn, at the time of the third square, Saturn will be very close to Neptune. Not in exact conjunction, but they will be both in Aries at the very early degrees. And Jupiter will be ruling, kind of, because it rules Pisces. So there is this connection between Jupiter and Neptune in a way, because they're the ruler of, both of them are the rulers of Pisces. So there is this kind of understanding between them. And I really feel that it will be end of illusions, time to work, time to push through, time to really set the plan and have the courage to follow our really true purpose, what we're here for, and to, even though it will be about accepting and working within the limits we have, but also recognizing and accepting our own limits, and not overstretching too much, not overextending too much. So, and it will be in the interest of lasting progress, as you just mentioned as well. So yeah, I think it's going to be supporting us to set the boundaries that we need to set to, to keep our individual self and to fight for our long-term goals. And it's going to be, in a way, restricting the overwhelm of having too many things going on. And yeah, I think it's going to be really more positive, the last square. So the solution is coming, because it's very overwhelming right now at the moment as we're recording this video in December. It's very overwhelming still because it's the second square. So again, some adjustments, some flexibility, some things to chew, which happened. And then, but have the patience. That's what I wanted to say. We need to keep looking and to just have the patience to go through all this. It's also not an accident that we have Mars retrograde at the moment, telling us don't, and in Cancer, where we'll have Jupiter later. So Mars is now kind of chopping off the dead wood and kind of showing us, where we need to adjust, to pivot. But then Jupiter will tell us, okay, now green light, here, that's the right goal. Now you can go over the same issue topic and you can find the right solution already, but it will be aligned with the long-term goals because Mars is very much focused on the now. I want to do this now. And it can be a little bit rushing in things. And when it's in Cancer, even emotionally rushing. And yeah, when we have Jupiter, it will be showing us the long-term purpose, the long-term goal, why we are doing certain things. And yeah, so I like it. Although Saturn in Aries can be very like warlike and too pushy, I think that it's going to be it's going to be still a positive. It's going to give us the opportunity. We still have a choice, and especially with Aries, it's about the free will of each of us. But yeah, but still with Jupiter in Cancer, we will have the good opportunities, to do the correct
Making
choice.
lemon out of lemonade, right?
Yes,
So it
yes.
really feels like, because Cancer is fertility. So this is a fertile soil, Saturn as the
Absolutely.
soil. So it just depends on what type of seeds you buy at the shop. You're gonna
Yes.
buy the quality one, or you are focusing on quantity. Jupiter
Mm.
quantity, Saturn quality. And this might tell you that, you know what, buy two quality seeds, plant those, it's going to bring you a lot more fruits or vegetables than buying, I don't know, 3 packets, and then all of them are going to die off.
Yes, exactly. So, yeah.
Okay, so anything else that you have got on a personal level?
I think we mentioned quite a lot indeed, and maybe when we go through the signs, we will add up to it here and there. So, because on the personal level, it's very important what the natal chart of the person represents and how it's built, and it's very difficult. We can only give very general significations of the signs of the planets, of the houses, and where it goes. And what it can do potentially, but still the natal chart is very important because all the aspects that you will receive from the planets, for some they may be very beneficiary, for other may be more challenging, so it's really important to see the whole chart. Yeah,
So I've got a
so
few things to mention about the economy cycle currently with the Saturn-Jupiter square. Because Saturn and Jupiter conjunctions, I mentioned a couple of keywords there, but mainly it talks about economical cycles. And as we said, it started back in 2020, December, which we call as the Great Conjunction. Uh, Remember, we did not have this conjunction in air signs for a very long time. You know, some people tend to say that, oh yeah, it happened in 2020, the very first time, but it's not true. Actually, it happened in 1980. We had one in Libra, but then it shifted back into Earth signs. So we had one conjunction in 2000 on 23 degree of uh, Taurus, and then now it's going to be happening, as Swati said, for a good 180 years, 200 years in air signs. And the repetition is actually really interesting with the Jupiter and Saturn cycles, because every three or fourth conjunction happens in the same sign. So if we have got one now happening, so basically we've got 2020, it's going to be in Aquarius. Then 2040, we're going to have one in Libra on 17 degree. And then 2060, we're going to have it in Gemini on 0 degree. And then 2080, we're going to have it on 11 degree of Aquarius. And then it repeats. So every fourth conjunction happens in the same sign. However, it can happen very rarely, though, that these conjunctions are taking place in the very same sign, but that usually happens once every 200 years. So those are very significant anyway. But enough of that. So obviously we're shifting from earth to air, and the air is the representation of technological advancements. And then it might look like for us that, you know what, is this technology, can this technology be even advanced further? Because wow, yes, it can be. So it's going to be very shocking, potentially by 2027, how much the technology is going to be actually changing when the Pluto-Uranus kind of cycle pretty much starting to fade away or gets exact, to be precise. It's going to be a big year on that. Now, it could talk to us about, I mean, I did look at some of the indexes of what has gone well this year, and the educational type of contents went really, really well. The telecommunication related matters went really, really well. No wonder Jupiter is the planet of expansion. So even in the sign of Gemini, it could be pushing things up, education, telecommunication, and so forth. So that was an area of life where it was worth kind of investing into. Oh, very important statement, because I'm going to be making some suggestions what to invest into, but I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not taking financial responsibilities for any of your investments. So this is more of an educational content. Always consult with a financial advisor if you are planning to make certain type of investments. But going back to the original thought, these three planets are really about the long-term market. So we've got the planet of expansion growth versus the planet of fear and contraction. So wherever Saturn is, often that shows what is the area of life where there might be struggle, and what is the area of life where potentially there is a shortage going on. So when we think about Saturn in the sign of Pisces, that could show a shortage of fishes, for example, or the shortage of oil, or the shortage of hospital staff, hospital and medical related problems. Now, this is something we have seen anyway on a global level, unfortunately, that hospitalization or hospital work have become a huge problem. We don't have enough doctors. They immigrate and they go somewhere else where they pay better and so forth. So I've seen this in many, many countries. I even know that in Hungary, certain hospitals got actually closed down due to not being able to serve the nation. So the public health matters could be a consideration here. And Jupiter is the about the expansion. Uh, so sorry, let's go back to Saturn, because when we have got a shortage, that could also be an indication that it's a good field to invest into, though, because if there is a shortage, the prices will actually increase quite significantly, because it's a kind of like an unavailable product, right? A limited edition type of thing. So yeah. Now, Jupiter is expanding though. So again, it doesn't mean that we shouldn't be investing into Jupiterian territories, because it also can indicate that the demand for those are actually growing quite significantly. So it could indicate that the demand of car industry or phone industry and so forth, or it can actually indicate also that we've got too many phones to sell, but no one wants to buy phones, right? We have got too many films on Netflix, Gemini, but no one actually wants to watch Netflix anymore. So it's a double-edged sword, though. So we kind of need to be mindful about it. And also, both planets are really connected to governmental decisions. So Saturn is actually the government, while Jupiter represents interest rates, the central bank systems. Jupiter is actually something to do with loans. And you might be wondering, yeah, Victor, but the loans are 8th house and that's a Scorpionic house, so it should be Pluto and so forth. No, not necessarily. At least not in kind of like traditional ways of looking at it. So Jupiter represents something to do with the central banking and so forth. So it really looks like that the central banks are kind of working on either lowering the interest rate or working on the inflation matters, because there is a manipulation behind it as well, by the way. Of course, with Pluto in Aquarius, we want to manipulate people to buy things. And they're only going to be buying if the, let's say, the interest rate, the VAT, or all those type of things are kind of like dropping. So obviously it's a clever type of system here, but anyway. And I feel like with Jupiter moving into the sign of Cancer, what we're going to see is that the property market will be blooming. And potentially from 2026, 2027 onwards, actually, I think it's going to be collapsing still, but it's going to bloom next year. And how I can imagine that? Maybe there is going to be a lot of demand to buy properties, but Saturn shows that we don't have enough equipment for it. Saturn in Aries, we don't have the tools, we don't have the bricks, we don't have the human resources, basically, someone to kind of build those buildings. So it's all slowed down. Or it could indicate that that yeah, that basically not the inflation, the bank loan and mortgage rates are kind of like decreasing, which actually I've already seen in some countries happening. Hungary, for example, introduced recently that, you know what, if you give birth to 3 kids, you don't have to pay half of the mortgage back, for example. And why? Because Saturn is ruling ruler of death rate as well. So some countries are trying to kind of stop, losing the population. While in other countries, of course, there are a lot. There are a lot of investment plans going on at the moment. Countries actually give you money to move there because they don't have anyone to fill up those buildings with. But also, it can indicate that unfortunately, we don't have enough buildings for people to live. So, obviously, with Jupiter in Cancer, the demand could be growing that I need more properties. And maybe with Saturn in Pisces now, maybe we don't have enough properties around the seas, oceans, holiday resorts, and all those type of things. Or we're gonna see that more and more hotels are being sold or being renovated or rebuilt and all those type of stuff. Jupiter represents the sky, so it is the representation of airplanes and so forth. So we can even see that, and this is interesting again because Etihad introduced recently these residencies on the plane. You get what, 50, 60 square meter just for yourself on a plane, obviously for a tremendous amount of money. And then it's a double bed or 2 people can sleep there as well, so potentially because there is demand for it. Wherever I go online now, first class tickets are advertised pretty much that how cool it is and so on. So we might see that there is going to be an increase around the properties, and I'm expecting at least about 20%, to be frank. Saturn is actually about budgeting. So it can really talk to us about how to budget our kind of like finances, how to budget our expenditure, because Jupiter loves spending money, while Saturn says, oh, put a bit break on it. Don't be too, kind of like wasteful, because Jupiter is the waste and Saturn is stop wasting things. So it could indicate that, for example, this reusable type of mentality is going to grow quite significantly in the next 4 years. Also, but Gemini, still Jupiter is in the sign of Gemini, which is technology, cars, education, transportation, and so forth. Once it moves into the sign of Cancer, it highlights the topic of real estate, but also it highlights the topic of silver. So I made a prediction back in 2022 that 23, 24 is about gold. And then 25 onwards, it's going to be the silver that should be picking up quite significantly. And because Saturn is the representation of mining industry, I believe that silver will be huge. I believe that will be huge. I think that's going to be showing some record heights. So I think interest correction, property mortgage related matters, maybe that's going to be lowered a little bit and so forth. because obviously the aim of the government is to keep up the prices of the properties as much as possible. So they're going to be working relentlessly on that. And even with, I can imagine though, that with Cancer, the family homes are more interesting, or even the offices. So I can imagine that now I've seen the Financial Times magazine released an article recently about the top 10 places where you should be investing money into. I'm really into property, so I'm reading all this crap. And I was really shocked that in Europe, there was only one place they recommended. And oh, they disregarded the capital cities though. And there was one place in Hungary that they recommended. So I had to look into it. What the heck is going on there? And the property prices went up this year 23% there, especially the office related buildings. So I was like, that's interesting. And when I was preparing for this little presentation, I was like, you know what, this could actually indicate office related matters as well. So I can imagine that there is going to be a demand for villas and so forth, but maybe a shortage of those as well. Now, Pisces represents, by the way, oil and gasoline as well. So this could show a shortage around that too, potentially. Uh, and what was I going to say here? Sorry. Jupiter Airline, I mentioned that. But of course, this could also indicate that when people are prompted to do buying and shopping, they go to the bank to kind of get the loan to, to accumulate debts. So we also need to be kind of careful with that as well, because a lot of people can get into debt as well. Kind of like seeing an opportunity, thinking that the grass is greener, or it's just going to get better somehow. So that's where Saturn comes into the picture, who says we need to be able to control things. I'm also going back to 2020 when Zoom started becoming big. And obviously, that was because of the lockdown. So I'm just wondering that Pluto in Aquarius will change internet forever. And then maybe we're going to start seeing that from now on with this ongoing Saturn and Jupiter square as well, that it's slightly but surely changing. And maybe this is about the regulation of the internet or the applications and so forth. I highly can imagine something around that.
There is
But
already
definitely,
something going on. Sorry to interrupt you, but I think it was in Australia. They're right now putting into a vote the banning of social media for children up to 16. So, yeah, sorry to interrupt you, but because it's already starting and you're very correct about this, I just wanted to put the facts in as
yeah,
well.
absolutely right. And you know what? We're gonna start seeing these already. So it's somehow in the motion. But
Yeah,
what I'm a
and
little bit afraid of, by Neptune moving into the sign of Aries, which is the representation of inflation, and typically when Neptune is in fire signs, the inflation is actually happening. So the other way they can actually do the rectification, and again, I'm not a financial expert, I'm just trying to use common sense really. But if there is an inflation, the only way they're going to be able to kind of manipulate this if they do something with the interest rates and the
mm,
VATs and so forth to kind of balance that out. I don't see any other ways how they can kind of manipulate this situation, but maybe I'm wrong. But what I don't like is that if Neptune is the representation of oil and gasoline, well, in a fire sign, what happens when we put gas and fire together? Something blows up. And Neptune is also connected to trends, and Aquarius is the sign of trends too. So it looks like there is going to be this huge trend, which we need to catch kind of on time and then invest into it. Uh, because that's about blowing up. But of course, what happens is when we kind of like because Neptune is also water, we put water on fire, what's going to happen? There's going to be smoke
yeah.
there. So either way, there is a huge disaster. as well as the possibility of a lot of gain, because Neptune is the higher octave of Venus. So there is a lot of money involved here. And by the way, whenever the sun and the nodes are squaring each other, there's always some major weather issues happening. So some natural disasters. So I'm again wondering if basically, unfortunately, there's a lot of sacrificial type of stuff going on here with Saturn in the sign of Pisces. Maybe a pandemic, and again, a lot of people losing their life, unfortunately, but it's a gain for something else. And that's the Jupiter.
Mm.
Talking about pandemics, yeah, I'm just gonna put it out there. There is a major possibility for a new pandemic to kind of be born. So I'm not gonna kind of sugarcoat it. There is no other way to go about that.
Yeah. Saturn
Um,
Neptune, you mean? Because of the Saturn Neptune conjunction, you mean? Or because of all
that's
the
right. And then it
influences?
could be
Yeah.
something that is affecting the blood
Yeah.
circulation,
Yeah.
headache related matters. Obviously, we're talking about Aries. Oh, which is Aries, kind of like if you think about it, the ruler is Mars, which represents surgical procedures. So the technological advancements are definitely there with the pharmaceutical companies. So they're gonna come up with some new vaccine, something that is untreated so
Exactly.
far.
Yeah.
Um, but
And
you
it
are in
also lose
pharmaceutical
needles
company. You
and
can talk
yeah.
about that more than me.
Not really. I don't know to what extent I'm allowed to do that, but anyway, Aries rules needles as well, sharp stuff, Mars, and so on. So I was thinking about needles and stuff and vaccines, and maybe this could be the time where, because it's also very much related somehow, this Saturn with the conjunction to Pluto, and it's a lot of cycles that started back in 2020. So maybe we will start seeing the long-term effects of the vaccines. And maybe there will be many cases of headaches and blood circulation issues. And this could be kind of showing as the result of whatever happened in 2020. So
You know,
that's
I
what I wanted to
deliberately didn't
mention.
want to bring that topic up because I
Yeah,
know
me
people are
neither, but
sensitive
it's
about
there.
it.
So, yeah, I wanted to mention something because of these office spaces that you mentioned with the real estate stuff. It just occurred to me because so many planets will be moving from water and earth into air and fire, which is very dynamic energy. It's not so much grounded. It doesn't let you feel the energy of not feel but stay in the energy of something. It just kind of makes you move on and move on and move on and move on, and kind of not being able to enjoy or to stay within a certain thing, just moving forward. So I was thinking about this office real estate that you mentioned, and that people will have more interest of going back to the office. Maybe this will be because artificial intelligence, everything started happening online so much. Lots of communications, lots of dynamics, but not so much human touch, not so much human factor, if I may say so. So people might want to go back to the office just to be in touch with a real person, not with a hologram or with the image on, behind the screen. Or maybe this is something that we will be lacking, and we will start feeling the lack of more and more. And maybe that could kind of result with this Jupiter in Cancer. Cancer is very much related to relationships somehow with your kinship, and with nurturing, taking care of a live person with babies. So maybe there will be this craving for human touch, for focusing on matters of the heart more rather than matters of the mind, and moving forward with more and more and more and more. And kind of, yeah, maybe this could create this necessity of building back communities, but with living people, with being around living creatures even. And yeah, that's what I wanted to mention, because it somehow, when you spoke about this, it just somehow occurred to me.
And not to
Yeah.
mention that the nodes are going to be in Virgo, Pisces, so the
Yes.
mental health of people are definitely something that becomes a major topic.
Yeah. The physical and the
So now
mental. Yeah.
silver, I think it's going to be taking place quite a lot, or even Saturn can actually indicate that because the demand is growing, so there is a lower production kind of going on. And in the sign of Aries, I mean, what comes to our mind? So unfortunately, the weaponry industry does come to my mind, unfortunately. And with Neptune being there as well, the religious or the spiritual war. And even because what's very important to kind of see that Saturn goes into Aries, Jupiter goes into Cancer. So, but they are now in Pisces and Gemini. And Gemini represents, in a way, the neighborhood countries. And Saturn is the border. So what could be very, and Pisces wants to unify. So it's kind of like bringing the territories together, bringing neighborhoods together. And potentially this is one of the reasons, of course, why we have got wars now. But once we've got this shift, then it's pretty much about what's mine and what's yours. So this is my territory, this is my home, get out. So even it could be something to do with migration that might be growing quite significantly, and people might be going back to their original countries a lot more. And this is the reason why the visa matters could be important, or the residency, whether we've got a second passport or not. I can imagine topics arising around that too. And then of course, the Piscean energy does bring in the nature element as well. With this Gemini, both of them are double-bodied signs, so this multicultural type of society that we are building. But it will be interesting to see how that plays out once the shift is happening. As I said, potentially I can imagine that I feel kind of discriminated and not welcomed anymore in foreign countries. We will see. I'm hoping it's not happening because I like being in foreign countries. So, surely. Um, and um, and the societal pressure with Saturn and Jupiter often actually kind of like comes into the picture. So definitely on a personal level, this is about, are we holding on to our insecurities, or what type of excuses do we make to let go of things in our life? What type of excuses do you make not to be courageous and brave, to take risks? Or even, I would say, because Aries will be involved, do you pretend to be someone? Kind of like with that Neptune, are you trying to kind of create a fake picture of yourself? Or actually, are you showing your true colors? And therefore, with Jupiter, a certain type of truth is going to be coming out. It really feels like that we are going to be working on our new version of the self, on discovering our inner truth, and being kind of distinguishing what's real and what's not real. Because, it's interesting to talk about reality because, you know, I mean, Saturn is the planet of fashion, and it might be a very brave statement, but fashion repeats. So, I
Yeah.
might be saying that, oh, I'm the one who discovered this pair of shoes. But really, that pairs of shoes were used, I don't know, 100 years ago. It just looked a little bit different, you know? So
Yes.
that's the Aquarius. It revamps, like upgrades something old, and then it makes it look new. So with Pluto, the same story happens here as well, that something just really gets upgraded here.
Yeah.
Okay, so
We
that's what
go.
I wanted to kind of share now in connection to the global indexes and so forth. I didn't necessarily want to go into certain type of stocks and so forth because this video would be
Yeah.
really long,
And
and we don't want to do that.
yeah. Also, Pisces also rules migration, because you mentioned movement of people and how you feel as a foreigner in foreign countries. And also, when Saturn moves into Aries, it will be conjuncting Neptune, which also rules refugees, migrations. And because you mentioned the potential for some natural disasters and things. This could practically also be related to some influx of people. And like with Jupiter in Cancer, that will need to be taken care of. So there is also this possibility here, I think. Yeah, so
I mean,
just wanted to
unfortunately, there
mention
is a
that.
war in a country, and then half of the population leaves, just like
Leaves.
Poland has gone through
Yes,
that. There is not enough home to be given to them, right? So,
yes,
what the heck is going to be happening? Obviously, the property prices will go up because we're going to have to put
there
up
will
some
be
properties
demand.
immediately.
Yeah,
And therefore, we're going to need the workforce for it. But do we have the equipment for it, the tools that we need? You
yeah,
know, the bricks and whatever we need to build a house. So potentially not. So
yeah.
that's where
Well,
Pluto might be coming into the picture, and then the whole building structure might be changing completely. And I don't know, we're gonna be putting houses together from leaflets, you know,
yeah,
or
or
leaves and stuff
we may
like
be
that.
going back to, I don't know, some older things we know, like from the really past back, like going back to agriculture and having to grow our own food because of lack of resources and because of lack of anything here, not only human factor, but anything like lack of natural resources. And we might, there might be this demand indeed. So yeah, this could also increase the prices of land. Maybe I am totally away from this, but maybe the price of land, and maybe because it's going to be way too expensive, lots of people will gather to buy this piece of land and might form this kind of community. So Pluto bringing us to extremes so that we can find the middle. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah.
Okay, so let's break it
Okay.
down very briefly for
Very
all
briefly
12
indeed.
signs. So let's start
Okay.
then with Aries.
Okay, so for Aries, Saturn is currently in the 12th house, and Jupiter is in the third house. So, where we have Jupiter, this will be a place where we would like to be overextending. So, third house is very much related to communication, going around, traveling, neighbors, communicating with neighbors, learning new skills, because this house is also related to learning new stuff. And at the same time, Saturn in the 12th could bring blockages, kind of, where we need to put some boundaries to make our choices because maybe we don't have the energy. 12th house is very much related to the feeling of isolation as well. So maybe even though we want to be expanding in communication, we might still feel very much isolated, and it could create this frustrating feeling like I'm surrounded by so many people, everyone wants to talk to me, I'm on the phone the whole day, and at the same time I still feel very lonely and isolated. It's like I'm very distant from everyone I communicate with, and my soul actually craves to have this close personal connection and relationship with the people around me. So I think for Aries rising, Aries sun, moon, or rising people, this will be appearing as a topic. And because Saturn Jupiter conjunction happened in the 11th house, indeed, it's again related to where to this sense of belonging, where I belong, what group of people I belong with. Is this exactly my place? Is this where I need to be? So yeah, that's how I see it for Aries, Sun, Moon, or Rising people. If you have something to add there,
And maybe you guys want to be just like, for example, launching a spiritual channel. And then maybe you're just going to have to be able to be comfortable with that. Obviously, this has taken place in your 11th house. The cycle started in the 11th house, which is about publicity. So you might just want to be considering somehow to have the bravery to put yourself out there. And Saturn actually could be helping you with that once it goes into the first house, to have the courage to show myself, to show vulnerability. and to also show that I care about humanitarian matters because the 11th is about humanity as well.
Yeah, kind of finding the balance for your need for freedom and for your need to be seen and to show yourself, and still keeping up with your emotional and spiritual responsibilities and values. Kind of. Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely. Let's
So,
move. By the way, guys, I did make a couple of videos about this. So if you want to dive into this deeper, I'm just going to be linking the other two video in the description box below because I spoke about a lot of other things, but today I just wanted to focus a little bit more on the economy and Sveti on the personal level. Okay, let's
mhm.
move on to Taurus.
Okay, so for Taurus, we have Saturn in the 11th and Jupiter in the second house. So these are two financial houses indeed, because the 11th house is the money that we earn from the job that we do. It's the second from the 10th. And the second house is our actual resources that we have, the values as well. So for Taurus and Taurus rising, this could be very much related to how we deal with our resources and our spending habits, maybe because with Jupiter in the second, it would be overspending, the issue of overspending, and where we actually overextend and overspend, and not only money, but also our energy, where we feel scattered. Do we maybe are we members of too many communities and groups? With Saturn in the 11th house, we will, Taurus rising will be able to somehow, um, chop off anything which is not in line with our purpose anymore. And maybe if we had a hard time leaving a certain group or community now, we will see that it's already high time doing it. It may be hard to decide it yet, but maybe once Saturn changes sign and Jupiter enters Cancer, then it will be the final resolution coming. So next year, midsummer. And yeah, I think it's very much related to learning new stuff as well, with Jupiter in Gemini, but still maybe still scattering the energies, and not being able to pick up on the correct thing, on the thing which really clicks within you, and you feel like this is your place, this is your group, this is the right investment, this is where I really want to be, and this is what I really want to do. So yeah, this type of energy here. And also, this
So
can
talk
be
to
very
you
much
about
related to the career, because, sorry to interrupt you, because Saturn comes from the 10th house, the Saturn-Jupiter conjunction, where the career is. And is this what I do, really what I want to do? Is this giving me enough resources to be, am I aligned in my career, in my job, with my values, and so on? Yeah.
absolutely. So this looks like for Taurus, this is about business cycle. So how to actually open a business, how to utilize my assets and finances for personal growth and gain. This could talk to us about maybe changing your philosophical outlook on what I want to be using and how to upgrade the business and what type of technological advancements I can use to enhance that career department. So this is definitely somehow a business cycle for you guys. And maybe you have to let go of certain type of things, assets and business ideas. Maybe they have to be replaced with something else, or maybe you just need to be a little bit more patient with it and then put the work in, and then kind of like connecting with others, business collaboration, and so forth, so that that fame and that not fame, probably that's not necessarily a great word, but that success could be coming.
Recognition, yes, some recognition maybe.
The
Uh,
recognition, yeah, that's the word
yeah.
I was looking for.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe you have been stuck, for example, in the corporate world for a while. So then am I brave to kind of upgrade my CV and kind of like maybe go into my own business.
Yes. And still like a
Let
consideration for that. Yeah.
we should. I'm not saying that we should be jumping out of our workplace immediately,
Mm.
but surely to work towards that vision, if that's the aspiration there, must happen, must be started.
Yeah, absolutely.
How about
So,
Gemini?
so for Gemini, we have Jupiter in the first house and Saturn in the 10th. And both of them are coming from the ninth, which is the so as an like the background is related to our moral code, to the value system, what we believe in, and now how we need to adjust and to change that so that we get the recognition because Saturn is in the 10th house. We might feel like getting more responsibilities, but not where we would like them to be, but in a different um, in a different sphere. Like I can give an example. I have a friend who is a Gemini rising, and she was actually promoted to become a manager, but she doesn't want to be a manager, and she's with Jupiter on the ascendant, she's expanding. It's a totally new project. With Saturn in the 10th, she receives more responsibilities on the career plane, but at the same time, she feels like it doesn't align with her moral code because being a manager means someone telling you what to tell to the people you manage because there are upper management people. And she feels very unaligned with what's going on. It feels like this is forced onto her. It doesn't see it as an opportunity. So there could be this really feeling frustration of something really hard and learning how to pull the strings yourself and learning new skills with Jupiter in Gemini, but not really being sure what skills exactly you need to learn, what exactly, feeling like your hands are tight, not being able to expand where you want so that you can be recognized for the values that you want, kind of.
Friend of mine also with a Gemini rising sign, actually, he is in management position. And since 2020, he works in pharmaceutical companies. So he's been traveling around quite a lot. But he left one of his jobs and then he went into another one. And anyway, he's in charge of, I think, 8 countries. And then in he started in September. So as soon as the first square happened, pretty much he started that new job. I think he got the job actually on the 19th of August, but he had a 1 month notice. So he just started in September. Anyway, what happened was recently, just a couple of weeks ago, instead of 8 countries, he's actually in charge of 15 countries. But they
Exactly.
forgot to give him pay rise. So
Mm,
he is like, okay, so you want me to look after 15 countries instead of 8, but you're not giving me pay rise. So hold on a minute. And Saturn is moving into the 11th.
yes. So
So let's see,
yeah, it's
maybe it's
absolutely
about
the same. Yeah, the same situation happening with my friend. She was also managing only 3 people, and now she's managing 6 countries, but they forgot to increase the pay rise. And it's no longer that personal. I mean, it's not the same to manage 3 persons and to manage 15 or 20. So yeah,
yeah, no, my
it's
friend
pretty much the same.
initially, he had to only be traveling once every 2 weeks. Now he's actually traveling once or twice a week because he's got a lot
Yeah,
more countries. And he's
yeah,
like, okay, so how am I going to balance out my family life? Because that
exactly.
might not be fair.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. It feels very unfair. It feels like it's forced onto you because first house is the self. So kind of we're giving you an opportunity, but you don't feel like it's an opportunity. You feel like it's something forced onto you because also Jupiter is not feeling very well in Gemini anyway, and the square it's making things even harder. So yeah, but with Jupiter moving in the second for the third square and Saturn moving in the 11th, these are the financial houses maybe. Um, anyone who is Gemini, Sun, Moon, or Rising will be able somehow to align with their personal goals, to get to know their price and to actually ask for the pay rise they deserve at one
Yeah.
point. Yeah. So because Jupiter gives growth of personal finances, and even maybe it will not be as much as you will request or you expect, but still there could be this increase though. Yeah. It might be
Okay,
very
let's
much
move on to
related to what,
Cancer.
yeah, to what you feel you deserve. Yeah. So let's move into Cancer. So for Cancer and for Cancer rising, Jupiter is in the 12th house and Saturn is currently in the ninth house, right? So the
That's right.
square happens between the ninth and the 12th. Both of these houses are related to faraway places. So maybe some difficulties with foreign places, and again, having to align your deep value system in order um, to achieve your long-term goals.
So let's move on to Cancer
So
rising,
for
fine?
Cancer and for Cancer rising, yeah. So for Cancer and for Cancer rising, we have Jupiter in the 12th and Saturn in the ninth house, both coming from the 8th. So I think that this will be very much related to some studies for cancers because ninth house rules universities, our moral code, higher knowledge, anything that we need to acquire to know. And coming from the eighth, where our fears reside, the subconscious mind, and so maybe things which will help us change our perspective, to shift our values, to align them with who we truly are, with our more authentic self. And with Jupiter through the 12th, maybe lots of insights, lots of knowledge will come through our dreams as well, because 12th house rules our dreams. And also 9th house and 12th house both together rule foreign places, foreign languages, anything foreign. So foreign travel law as well. So maybe these two houses combined, if somebody is trying to get a visa or to go to another country, there could be some delays or there could be some restrictions and you not being able or you picking the wrong place to go, but then it turns out it actually gives you something, but it's not exactly what you wanted. So there could be this frustration of choosing maybe not the right thing to study, not the right place to go, but still it gives you something. It's like a step of the process where you finally when you go back in a year or so, you will be able to see how this actually helped you grow and how this actually helped you form your kind of higher meaning for life, your philosophy for life, and it gave you a totally new direction, which maybe you are not quite able to see right now.
You might be learning about your own
If
power.
you have, yeah.
Yeah, sorry. You might be learning about your own power. You might be learning to dig deep in certain type of psychological complexes. Maybe you're ready to let go of some family matters that have been holding you back. Maybe actually this is going to be teaching you that you have to be able to look at your own needs as well, and not necessarily just the needs of your family and so forth. Because we can only do that for a certain amount of time, right? So being able to let go of a child, being able to let go of family karma, and so forth. So it's for me, it's about how to free yourself up for unhealthy attachment or letting go of problematic things and crisis situations in your life. So it feels like there's a lot of kind of like liberating yourself from fears and and kind of like these inherited diseases within yourself. So the mentality that you inherited from others, and then you are ready to say goodbye.
Yeah, very much indeed. It's like the 12th house is the self-undoing house. So absolutely whatever happens, it will be related to letting go and making yourself free of any kind of, stuff which is preventing you from being your authentic self, indeed. And with Saturn entering Aries, and Jupiter entering Cancer for the last square. Actually, this will be, the final resolution where you will find yourself expanding the way that you actually want. You will have a clear mind of who you really want to be and what you actually need to let go of, and you will be able to push through into this direction. Yeah.
Let's move
So
on to
for
Leo then.
Leo, are we up to Leo?
Yes.
Yeah. For Leo, Sun, Moon, or Rising, Saturn will be in the eighth house, is currently in the eighth house, and Jupiter is currently in the 11th house. So, again, these are two financial houses because the eighth house actually rules um, the money of the partner and other people's money as well. And with Jupiter in the 11th, this is all about the people we know, the recognition that we get, and the money that we receive from the job that we do, and all communities and relationships that we have, our wider circle of people around us, and how they could support us in our financial endeavors as well. So, I can give a personal example here because my husband, he's Leo rising, and actually with Saturn in the eighth house, it's about restrictions of the money of the partner because I'm seeing some difficulties and some changes in my career, as I mentioned before. And in the 11th house, he has he's building up on many new relationships coming into his life through some people he knows, but kind of they come and go, and he doesn't have this feeling of like all of these are going to stay, or are some of these going to stay, and there is this ebb and flow between people coming and going, and not having this opportunity, this feeling of stability. And with Saturn through the eighth house, maybe it's kind of stirring up the fears within. Is this going to work? What I'm starting and what I'm doing, am I good enough? All these questions that we have on the subconscious are kind of coming up. Am I enough? Is this enough? And yeah, it's like making you feel maybe a little bit insecure about what you do, and is it going to pay off in the long run?
You guys have become Adele, turning tables. Sorry, I'm just making a joke because
Yeah.
a couple of years ago it was the other way around, right? So you were making more money than him and so on, and then
Yes.
now the changes are
Yes.
happening with him and with you, and so that's interesting. So basically 2 years
Yeah.
ago, I think he changed jobs and
Yes.
so on.
Yes.
So you were more the supporter and head of the family, and then now it's turning around. Also, my friend
Absolutely.
has got double Leo as well. Actually, she's triple Leo. And what happens with her is that she's being used at work, and she doesn't have the courage to actually stand up for herself. So now she looks after three prisons, and she has to even travel when she has got her own child. So she hardly spends any time at home. And interesting, right? Pisces is the prison, but also being used and being taken advantage of as well. And then the eighth house is pretty much about, but it's in a way, accumulation of your courage, because it's part of the second house as well, where you have got your strength. Often the eighth house is the lack of strength. I don't have the strength to say no. And this would be important to kind of to do so. Another friend of mine with a double Leo energy, well, she is highly spiritual and she would like to be in the spiritual business, but she is so afraid of being on the public stage, or because I've got accent or this and that, and I'm going to be judged, criticized, and so forth. And then often with Jupiter and Saturn, you feel like that you have to be the eternal student because I'm not good enough in this, like in this type of house positions. So there is definitely the need here to explore, like collaboration possibilities or who is benefiting my life and so forth. And sometimes you need to be able to say kind of like goodbye to them because they might be the one that are holding us back. And sometimes these are the inner demons, eighth house, which we all have
Yes.
got. Just some of us are more prone to kind of welcome them in our lives. And Leo, you were born to shine. So don't step away from that idea of being in the public arena because you are the actor of the chart.
Yes, absolutely. It's also like having to pay some karmic debt in order to have the freedom that you crave. And this is actually something that happened to my husband. He had a very strange relationship with someone, and he lost a lot of money out of this relationship. But now he actually feels very much relieved. Jupiter actually set him free of this kind of having to be a part of this community with this person specifically and having to build something bigger and feeling obliged to do so, not being able to escape it. And now he's finally free. It's about a long year, duty that he felt, and now it's gone. So he had to, lose a lot of money out of it, but still he enjoys the freedom. And he says, I never felt so well because of this, So yeah. Okay,
Let's have a
so
look at Virgo then.
Virgo, yes, Virgo, Saturn will be in the seventh house. So we have angular houses here, and Jupiter is in the 10th house. So it's very much about relationships with others, seventh house, and what's going on the career plan. There could be maybe because Jupiter is in the 10th, career expansion, but at the same time, Saturn in the seventh, due to all these new projects, new stuff going on for you Virgos. You have to learn a lot, and maybe some of the relationship may suffer. You may kind of need to. You may feel unable to find this work-life balance, and the relationships that are not so stable, not so not secure, but not so stable in a way, they will go away. They will be just left off. And yeah, in order to advance in the career, you will need to let go of some people there. Or maybe you find a business partner in the seventh house, but and you try you start building up on something, but then you suddenly realize maybe this is not the correct way to do it, or maybe it will take much longer than expected, and the career growth might come a little bit later, or maybe I had to invest much more into research before jumping into the cold water, and yeah, things like that.
Or potentially, maybe is this business contract suitable for me?
Yeah.
Are the business like competitors taking over my, business? Do I want to sell this business to others? I've got actually um, a client of mine who is actually struggling with this question now. Am I going to be selling my small business to a bigger organization so that I can have the money that I need? Or am I going to be kind of putting more work into this and trying different things out so that, I can kind of be my own boss? And that could be also a question that might be popping up for a lot of Virgo people. Or maybe what does this relationship bring me any type of advantage? Does this, shall we make this relationship official, or shall we actually kind of get divorced? That could be also a question there as well. So obviously there is a lot of kind of like emphasis here on happiness, whether I feel happy, or am I getting stuck in a relationship because of the prestige, or because of the society, or because even parental influences and so forth? Do I
Yeah.
want to work together with someone? Do I want to build a business together with my partner or not? This could be a topic that you might be kind of like vacillating
Yeah, and
about.
yeah, and it can even play out on a very internal level as well here, because Saturn is also opposing the ascendant. So it's all the angular houses, practically the whole chart is very much activated. But it could feel like I get this new job opportunity, but my partner, he's not aligned with it. He wouldn't support me, and it could be a feeling of like having to choose between two things that you really value and not being able to come up with the right decision, the right solution, and feeling like being on a cross, literally, like really, yeah, not being able to see how to proceed further because you're like in the middle of having to make a decision about your life, but like wanting it all, but not being able to have it all. It's like a feeling.
Okay, let's move on to Libra.
Okay, so for Libra and for Libra rising, we have Saturn in the sixth and Jupiter in the ninth house. So it's very much related, I think. Maybe some health issues, sixth house, could change, could cause you, could force you to make some changes in your daily life, daily routines, and your entire worldview. Ninth house might need to shift and to change, and you somehow need to align with the new you, with the new routine, so that you can, and you will need to change your values, what you believe practically, or maybe it could be like you have a long-term goal, but you don't see how you can implement a daily routine which will be supporting this long-term goal the other way around. So you will again need to adjust and to make space in the daily routine, sixth house, so that you can align with this long-term goal. Or maybe another manifestation could be because Jupiter is in Gemini, it could be scattering your energy too wide and too optimistically about many things which you believe in, but not being able to focus on one thing exactly, and then finding a hard time to actually integrate anything that you learn, anything that you get in touch with into the daily life. And it becomes like moot knowledge, like you know so many things, but none of it, you have no idea how to implement and how to get to any of it in your daily life, how to make use of it, practical use, how to bring it on the material level for, and to benefit from it. um yeah, I think more or less, also
Maybe it
because
also,
nine. Yeah, tell.
yeah, go ahead,
Go
sorry.
ahead. No, go ahead, that's okay.
No, I just wanted to say that maybe it can also feel like that in order for me to have reputation and achievements, I have to be making sacrifices in my life, or I
Yeah.
have to be dealing with a lot of crisis situation. But the sixth house is also representation of tools and resources that you use every single day. So it's actually a talent house as well. Any earth houses are talent related anyway. So practicing that talent, using the right resources to achieve your dreams and visions could be something that you are asked upon now.
Mhm. And it can be easily related to something, because Saturn Jupiter conjunction comes from the fifth house. It could be easily related to something that happened, some hobby, for example, or something which was very close to your heart, where you felt you are your authentic self back in 2020. So it started, and now it's time to integrate the hobby, let's say, and make it your daily routine, or maybe even make it your job, because the sixth house also rules our work, the daily work. So maybe it's about this, how to possibly integrate what you love within your daily routine, within your day. Yeah.
A friend of mine with a Libra rising sign gave birth 3.5 years ago, and fifth house. And in Hungary, the maternity leave is 3 years, actually.
Oh,
So now she's due back to work, and she's so afraid that the work circumstances have changed a lot. Different vision the company has, even the people are completely different as well. So she's kind of questioning whether I'm going to be fitting into that group, or am I going to be kind of somehow outcasted or discriminated. Even she questions whether she's going to be able to do like a 9 to 3 so that she can pick up the child and all those type of matters. So there's a lot of worrying around work-related matters. And the ninth house is the house of opportunities. So actually, she's on the lookout for something new. I think
yeah.
she's due back around the 10th of January. She might be able to find something, or at least she's hoping, because she's just so afraid of going back to the old workplace.
Yeah, or maybe she may go back to the old workplace and try to see how things will work out, so that she can face the fears and not scatter herself so much among many opportunities coming or not coming, or But and when, for the third square, when Jupiter actually moves into Cancer and hits the 10th house of career, maybe she will have better opportunities. So maybe it's worth starting where she is now, and just to see how things are, to get back into Saturn in the sixth, get back to some working routine from motherhood, from the fifth house, and then having, I don't know, maybe better possibilities with exalting Jupiter in the 10th house for career expansion. And now just, having the um, looking around somehow, but not yet acting so much, just figuring out what she really wants, kind of. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think that's a very important statement here that can you do you believe in something that you do on a daily basis? And maybe that's work related matters as well. Because we spend what 40% of our lives at work. And if you don't believe in those, then it can cost our health and mental well-being and so forth. Or maybe you have gone through the spiritual growth with the ninth house activation, and then you kind of figure out that, you know what, the stuff I do on a daily basis does not matter anymore. So it doesn't matter whether I clean up the room or something like that. Well, I'm not suggesting to stop cleaning up after yourself, but maybe you just realize that there is a lot more meaningful things out there rather than just
Mm.
focusing on always on the small details.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, what about Scorpio?
Oh, what about Scorpio? That's me. I have a Scorpio ascendant, so I will be able to say things from my personal perspective as well, and what's happening in my life. We already mentioned it at the very beginning of the video when we discussed the general picture. But so for Scorpio, we have Saturn going through the fifth house and Jupiter going through the eighth, and both of them are coming from the fourth. So there will be definitely things going on the family plane, where you need to figure out your relationships with your family, and maybe some with Jupiter in the eighth house, some hidden blockages that you had, because eighth house rules the subconscious mind. So maybe you will come to some realizations, and something might seem hopeful, but in the end you see it's actually triggering the same old wound that you had, just like it happened for me. And with Saturn through the fifth, finding your more authentic self and having the courage to really speak up or stand up for yourself and stand up for your individual self, to protect yourself. And something really interesting happened with Jupiter through the eighth house for me for the first time, because eighth house rules credits and other people's money and banking loans and so on. So actually, this for the first time in my life, I applied for a bank loan, and I was approved within 1 day, but uh, 2 days later, they announced the layoffs at my company. So I received the money, but I don't have the security that I will be able to pay it off, until the end of the the bank loan, due date. So I got it with Jupiter in the eighth house, but now not exactly. So I felt, oh my God, yeah, good timing, so to say. But still, it brings about having to adjust, realign your goals, your finances. And fifth house is all about having fun. So Saturn restricts that a little bit now for me more with this bank loan, so that I can, realign with the new goal, new purpose, and so on. So it plays out in this way for me a lot. And also because eighth house is also the money of the partner, my husband, he received, at the same time, he received some money back, which he gave. So it was a great timing, and it all happened within a week. It was very funny, and when I look at the chart, okay, it was Saturn, Jupiter having the money but not feeling secure that you'll be able to give them back, and then the support of the partner. Okay, everything will be okay. But things happen, opportunities come and go, and lots of dynamic there. So yeah.
Fifth house is also pleasure. So, am I getting pleasure out of things that I am doing?
Mm.
Or am I actually getting stuck in a security related matter? So, what I'm kind of feeling here is that, let's say Tsveti is a great example of that. She's a great astrologer, but her fears are holding it back from actually doing this full time because, oh, I need to be able to, take care of my family. I need to put money on the table and all those type of things. And obviously, when we have got this fear limitation, and with Jupiter, obviously what happened is that you got the loan, but the fear could have increased as well,
Yeah,
right?
it
Because
did.
then again, this is another milestone. Oh, I cannot leave the job now. And maybe she has been planning it for a while. But also, the fifth house is a reminder that we all have got a creative talent and we all have got a hard desire that we need to be able to kind of step on. So if we feel that the workplace, for example, is kind of like a limitation and causing me mental stress, and somehow that psychological complexes are just increasing and increasing, then we're gonna get kind of tangled into this loophole, not loophole, like in this loop, in this catch 22, and then we don't know how to
Yeah,
get out of it.
I have no
So I
idea.
think it's very much about to align with your heart desire so that finally you can be happy, because that fifth house is about happiness, and that wants to go on a holiday, that wants to go to singing lessons, that wants to play the piano and all those type of
Oh
things.
yeah,
But maybe we say no to it due to, oh, I've got a loan, I've got this and that going on, I cannot afford it anymore, and then we make our
yeah.
life miserable.
That's exactly what happens indeed, lately, especially. So yeah, but
And also
hopefully,
maybe asking us
yeah,
to look at our emotional connections or attachment to our childhood experiences, because it does come from the fourth house. So, how to let go of all those attachment problems, all those psychological complexes, kind of inherited from our parents. So you mentioned at the beginning of your video, obviously, your connections, and maybe this is an invitation to let go of wanting to be loved by the parents, or
Exactly.
maybe it's the preparation for some to be able to say goodbye to the parents, unfortunately, through certain type of losses and departure and so
Yeah.
on.
Or even letting go of the idea of how the parents should be loving you. And because we have I personally, and I think most of us have a very specific idea of what it means to be loved and accepted by the parents, but they do it in a different way because they are living beings and developing and having their own style, and which is in disagreement with our values, say Jupiter. And maybe just being able to see the other person's perspective and to accept it and to let go of the expectations. And then maybe it's like starting clean again. But it takes time, definitely. It's a very long process, at least for me. And but it's happening. And I feel really much, much better already. And yeah.
And often it takes 4 years to kind of
Yeah,
culminate because the opposition is going to be happening in 3.5, 4 years' time.
exactly. Yes. So maybe then I'll have the final result. And all the Scorpios, not only me, but Scorpio, Sun, Moon, or Rising. Okay.
Let's look at Sagittarius.
Yeah, so now we have Sagittarius, and for Sagittarius, we have Saturn in the fourth and Jupiter in the seventh. And it's again angular houses being activated. For Sagittarius, this aspect is even more important because Jupiter is the ruler of Sagittarius, and it's practically their chart ruler, if that's the ascendant. So it becomes even more highlighted. And with Jupiter through the seventh house, maybe. Um, new partnership or a divorce, but whichever of both. This will be something related to making you feel free. It will be a nice feeling, kind of. It will not be a feeling of there will be no remorse. In a way. And with Saturn through the fourth house, maybe having to let go of some old models, structures from early childhood. Again, the fourth house is the emotional stability, where we have our emotional stability. So maybe whatever happens in terms of partnerships, um, disturbs also this the place of living, the emotional stability, our these realms, so to say, the home, the roots, the ancestry. We think about it a lot, and we think about how we can pivot our values, our in terms of relationships, what we really want in a relationship, and how our values being formed, how are values being structured um, based on traditions. Oh, based on something which happened in our early childhood. My friend Lola, is it Lola?
Yeah. So,
Yeah, yeah, I miss her. Anyway,
yeah,
so
like
sorry.
it's a long video. Can we go for a walk finally?
Very soon. We have
Very
just
soon.
3 signs to go and we are ready. So yeah, for Sagittarius, it's going to be very much about realigning the values in terms of what I value in relationships and where my values came from. What's the ancestry? Are these my values indeed, or are these installed into me by some family traditions, by my ancestries, by the culture I live in as well? So it's kind of reevaluating these a lot.
And also, I would say that maybe you guys need to be stopping to be worried about what is going on in the world, because the
Yeah.
fourth house is very much where you put your head down. So that's the midnight energy, and you are meant to be sleeping at midnight rather than kind of, being worried about what is the society doing. And because the initial conjunction took place in the third house, so kind of like the feeling, am I in a safe neighborhood? And I'm going to give you a personal example here, not mine, but a really close friend of mine. His brother, twin brother, is going to have an operation, an open heart surgery coming up. And we spoke about this yesterday, that most likely he's not going to be able to work. And then they are twins and they have got their own business together. So everything is going to be kind of like, have to be done by my friend. So obviously, having that fifth house energy, which is the fun, and Saturn there indicates lack of fun. And then the seventh house, the contractual agreements, third house, initially, where the whole thing started, is about contracts as well and business. So it looks like he's going to have quite a busy year ahead of him because he's not going to have the help that he needs. And this could be affecting the relationship department, for example. But also maybe you have got these kind of like dialogues happening within yourself, whether, the person I live together with is the right one. Do I want to live somewhere else? And let's imagine that you want to be moving and then the partner doesn't. This is also happening in
Mm.
my friend's life, that he hates winter and then he just wants to go, and he doesn't feel safe anymore in Hungary as much. But the partner's life is unfortunately kind of tied to that place because he's got a bloody well-paid job. So what am I gonna do? And then how can I do my stuff if I move somewhere else? Or maybe just simply you start questioning whether this relationship is kind of like worth putting our head down together in the same bed, you know.
Yeah.
So some of you might be actually the realization that this relationship is not for me anymore,
Yeah.
because the
This
fourth house is the end of matter, so an end of a relationship.
Yeah, and now that you mentioned that fourth house is related to families and Saturn is related to further responsibilities there. So maybe an old parent who needs to be taken care of might appear in the picture, and the partner might not be as supporting as we wish. So there is this again this dispute between the personal life and where we get support from. And because Jupiter is the ruler of the chart for Sagittarius, it's going to be really important on. It's going to be reflected on. It's going to be affecting how we feel for ourselves as well, and what we can contribute and what we can't. And it's going to be like a catch-22 to decide which side to support, the partner or the parents, or it's going to be like a feeling of being on a cross again, because it's the angular houses and not being frustrated for taking action, not being able to make a choice, kind of.
Absolutely. And even it could indicate hesitation around, I want to be investing into a property or not. And maybe we're
Yes.
doing all these kind of research around it, because Gemini is a researcher sign,
Mhm.
alongside with Scorpio. They are both researching, but in different ways. So we might be kind of like looking for a great opportunity, but we might be so afraid of kind of like doing or making
Mhm.
that move. And I'm again just wondering with Mars in the ninth house, maybe it's an investment that we want to be making abroad, but ooh, we are not there and so forth. So who's going to manage it? And all
Yeah.
these type of
Not,
questions.
yeah, not having the details kind of yet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay,
Okay.
so moving on to
Capricorn.
Capricorn. Yeah, Capricorn, that's also important for Capricorn very much because Saturn is the ruler of Capricorn. So we have Saturn taking part in this aspect. So Capricorn will be very much affected in it as well. So Saturn will be in the third house for Capricorns and Jupiter in the sixth house. And as third house is skills and sixth house is daily routines, as we mentioned for the previous signs already. And sixth house is very much related to our job every day, what we do in our everyday job and everyday life. It might be that we get some job opportunity, or we might get some work to do, but we feel like we lack the skills with Saturn in the third house, or we are not able to communicate to the workforce, sixth house, the exact requirements, what we demand of them, what we need them to do for us. And there could be this feeling of miscommunication where you want to implement something, but at the same time, it's impossible to communicate it to the people who need to implement it. And it might feel very difficult to go further with your goals. You have a long-term goal about something, how to change your everyday life, how to make things better with Jupiter, how to expand. But at the same time, it seems like nobody gets your idea. Third house. You're not able to communicate it correctly to everyone. And it might feel really frustrating because you feel like you see it clearly, but nobody around you gets it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a kind of
Or
this
imagine that you are questioning again whether the work that you do kind of like makes sense or not.
as
Because the
well.
third house is about the rationalization of my everyday activities. Maybe it's about rationalizing that it's time to make changes in my life. It's interesting because the twin brother I mentioned, that the one who has got health issue actually has got a Capricorn rising, and
Oh,
my best friend has got Sagittarius rising. So obviously, the sixth house activation kind of indicates that he's going to have a certain type of health issues,
yeah,
which they have known about for a very long time. And then Saturn maybe is restricting his mobility. So I'm unable to
yes,
kind of move around as much as I wanted to. And both of them are travelers. They enjoy traveling quite a lot. So that
yeah,
could be a topic there. Or maybe how I connect with the co-workers, how I connect with even my employees. Do I need to hire employees? Do I want to sell, for example, a service industry related business or not? This could be a topic. Or how can I actually communicate to make things more productive, efficient, how to fix the communication with people as well. And this originates from the second house. So it
yes,
looks like that there is potentially a self-worth situation going on as well. And then how to communicate about my own insecurities, because the sixth house is the crisis in the ego. So we question a lot of things, internal questions we ask with the sixth house. So we
yes.
might be questioning our self-worth here.
Yeah, kind of, am I enough? Am I good enough? Is this good enough, what I'm doing? Are my values good enough? And so on. And because all, the conjunction, as you mentioned, comes from the second house, it could also be related to finances as well. Like, what I'm making, is this enough for me to really, to go, is it worth continuing with it or, not? So
Discontinue,
these
yeah.
questions, yeah. So maybe when Jupiter enters Cancer, for Capricorns, it's going to be a little bit better. Although it's going to be opposing them, still they're going to see the opportunities because it's right opposite of them. So there will be more opportunities and better ones, hopefully. So yeah, things will improve for the better, but patience for Capricorns, patience is especially important. Yeah.
Let's see.
Aquarius.
Aquarius.
Okay, for Aquarius, Saturn will be in the second house and Jupiter will be in the fifth house. And for Aquarius, as Saturn is also the old ruler of Aquarius before Uranus was discovered, then it's again a very important transit for them, and they might feel it stronger than the other signs. So the second and the fifth house are also very much related to, they're like, the fifth house is the house of investments, of speculative business, and the second house is the house of money and what we have to invest. So there could be this I don't know, checkmate situation where they invested because Jupiter is in the fifth house. So maybe they jumped into something, into the cold water, seeing some opportunities, and now they have difficulties with their financial status and like dealing with the finances. Or it could be like overextension of investing into too many hobbies, for example, or spending money on too many pleasurable activities, fifth house, and then having a hard time to cover the expenses that you actually incurred. And maybe asking yourself if the business that I opened, because fifth house is also related to self-owned business, maybe the business that I opened need to be readjusted so that I can make more money or enough money to live by. And I really need to readjust the goals that I have. Or maybe, I need to communicate better to find the right circle of people, because Jupiter also rules the 11th house for them. So it's also connecting with the right tribe, getting into the right community so that you can, push forward with your goals and long-term vision, and working on the vision as well so that you can build up a firmer basis to step on and to, to continue. So yeah.
Or maybe it feels like that I'm having to say no to joy and fun in life because I've got all these financial responsibilities and restrictions. Or maybe we are actually hesitating whether it's worth giving birth to a creative project or giving birth to a child right now, because just the money is tight. Potentially, you don't have the self-worth there. Potentially, you don't know what your talents are, what you are good at. And it's time to actually figure that out. And once we've got the shift, Saturn might want you to study, to learn, to develop new skills so that actually you can create that fifth house moment, joy, following the heart desire.
Yeah, to learn to communicate better your heart's desire as well when Saturn shifts into the third house in Aries, which is the individual self. So getting much more in touch, not at the beginning though, because it's going to be difficult at first, but then when you get into the energy of Aries, Saturn in Aries, then really getting in touch with your more authentic self and really finding out what you should do, what you can improve, to put the discipline to really allow yourself all those joys, and and to follow the opportunities that you see. Okay,
And
so
let's move on to the final one, Pisces rising sign.
always last but not least, right? Would you like to start because you're a Pisces rising?
Oh,
Maybe you can.
go ahead.
Okay, so
Let's
for
keep
Pisces.
the pattern.
Okay, let's keep the pattern. So we'll stick to Saturn. So for Pisces rising, we have Saturn going through the first house and Jupiter through the fourth. So that's again the angular houses. And again, as we mentioned before, Jupiter is the ancient ruler of Pisces. So this is again something really important going on there for Pisces, much more than for the other signs. The first and the fourth house, again, they may be creating this feeling of being at a cross where you want to expand, where you want, for example, to buy property, the fourth house, Jupiter, but you don't see many opportunities, or everything that you see doesn't suit your goals, long-term goals, and it's not exactly what you want. The opportunities that arise actually might be too restricting for you because Saturn in the first house, and or you may feel like you want to sell some property, but again, some restriction comes up. It's impossible to sell it. Some difficulties there. I see you reacting to it, so maybe this was something that happened. But still, there is this also with Jupiter, because Jupiter it expands everything it touches, but the bad news is that it expands everything, not only the good, but also, the difficulties. So when it goes through the fourth house, maybe some difficulties, some emotional difficulties, or some difficulties with properties, as I mentioned, or with family, with ancestry, with, with such matters, with maybe you are, Pisces rising will not be able to decide what are the family values they want to follow. Do they want to build a family? Do they want to be single? Or how is it? How does it look? Like lacking a vision, kind of. I'm a Pisces sun, so for me, it's working full force. I feel like I lack the vision of what the family should look like in terms of values. I mean, I have my values, but I'm questioning them now, and I'm kind of readjusting them somehow, especially when it comes to father figures and to, to who does what within the relationship, how we split responsibilities, because Saturn is also involved. And in like it, the, I don't know, impossibility to split them somehow. It's when we're both busy, I take it over. When one of us is free, then we are partners. But it doesn't work well this way. So we need to readjust and to redistribute all the, responsibilities, because it's too much somehow. And yeah, it's this kind of readjustments about the traditions, the culture, the roots, what kind of roots we want to build, and what's the long-term vision of how we see things. And because Saturn, Jupiter comes from the third house, it's about acquiring new skills, skills to communicate your ideas, skills to communicate the vision, and skills to really be able to work with what's available around you, so that you can, promote your long-term vision.
Yes. And also, I mean, how it plays out for me on one hand, I mean, the properties where I can speak about them for hours. The very latest one is, which is not funny, but I thought I had managed to sell a flat. We had the contract and so forth, and then the buyer died.
Oh my
He
God.
had a motorbike accident. And then, I got contacted by the family members if I was nice enough to kind of give the deposit back to them. And then I said, listen, we are living in a world which is a bit funny and scamming. So can you prove that to me that you lost your husband? And they were like, oh, we completely understand. And of course, we understand your doubts. So they sent me the death certificate of the person, and I had his passport and all this type of thing. So of course I gave the money back. I'm not a ruthless person, but and I felt really guilty, Pisces, having to ask for a proof. But we are in a world where you have to do these type of things,
Absolutely.
right? And then I was so apologetic. I'm really sorry, and I shouldn't have asked, but anyway.
And now you
So
have a hard time letting it go. Did you let it go, or
yeah,
you
because
had
I
hard
do
time?
feel guilt, and then it happened like 2 weeks ago. But also with the previous house I sold October 15th, this contract got sold. It just got finalized a couple of weeks ago.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Because they were taking their time, big time. Obviously, at that time, Saturn was retrograde. Now Jupiter is retrograde in my fourth house. So it was all over the place. But I also feel like that this could talk to us about whether we want to settle down, we
Settle
want to
down.
put our roots down or not. And because I've got a partner now, it looks like I'm having to settle down, but at the same time, this is a burden for me as well because I've already have got an itchy bum and I want to go somewhere else and I want to travel again. And then my partner doesn't get visa that easily. So is it going to happen or not? Obviously, Jupiter. And on top of that, even this could talk to you about maybe because the initial conjunction happened in the 12th, that there are certain type of suffering or losses or karmic type of matters that it's time to kind of adjust and let go of. And the first and the fourth house combination for me is really about inner happiness. So there is this calling here. We are called upon to kind of again be happy. And then if we feel that we are stuck, because Saturn in the first house can make us stuck, then how I'm going to be kind of moving towards something that I truly enjoy. And that's the fifth house. And at the beginning, I did mention that, my weight loss journey and so forth. And then now, second, moving into my second, my plan is that I'm going to become a bodybuilder and then I'm going to go for a bodybuilding competition. But interesting conversation I had with my best friend yesterday, who said to me, listen, I was thinking why you want to become a bodybuilder. Are you in a midlife crisis? Obviously, I'm 42 in a second. Are you in a midlife crisis and maybe you kind of are afraid that you're losing your kind of like youth and so forth? And then this is kind of like an overcompensation. And because Jupiter is the ruler of the 10th house, the planet of achievements, obviously, the Jupiter being at the bottom of the chart, kind of like invisible, we can be scared of not being visible, not growing as much as we would like to. But
Mm,
definitely, the fourth house is also kind of making us feel that we are still kind of like fertile. We still have got more to show. But where is the audience who is looking at us? Where is the, I don't know, the partners or all this type of stuff? So this
yeah.
could be also kind of like a psychological topic that might be popping up
Definitely,
for
yeah.
the
And
high
because
sign.
Jupiter is actually the ruler of your ascendant and also of the midheaven, you have a whole stellium in Sagittarius. So being at the bottom of the chart, totally invisible, as you mentioned before, it's midnight time where everyone is asleep. So nothing happening in the fourth house is actually visible. And Saturn preventing this as well, creating this feeling of lack, of not being enough, something not being enough, not necessarily you, but maybe the achievements and whatever. Then it could be because it could be creating this feeling of lack and wanting to be more visible, but it's only, a period of time. And I am absolutely sure that once it gets into Cancer, practically, it will give the opportunities, and it will give the time and the right time, the right place to actually uh, be more in touch with what makes you tick, because it's the fifth house, and to again, because it's the Leo house, to again be your shine, the in your shining armor, and be seen and become more and more visible. And once it goes over, the seventh house cusp, it will become more and more
And
visible
to be
again.
frank, the amount of cosmetic procedures I did since Saturn went into my first house, oh Jesus Christ. And on top of that, of course, we've got South Node in the eighth house as well, which is the house of aging. So, and maybe this is actually kind of like telling us that we need to make peace, in a way, inner peace, fourth house, that things are being lost. Things are, things don't last forever, 12th house. There is
Yeah,
no such thing as perfection, 6 and 12th house.
absolutely.
But F it, I'm not
Youth
gonna
is
make peace
being
with that. So
kind
I'm
of
gonna go and then do my Botox and stuff like that this weekend.
Youth is being closed because Jupiter and Gemini in the fourth house and Saturn on the ascendant. You gain the wise perspective. You take the wisdom out of it. So yeah, go for it. I have my sun in Pisces, and I can absolutely say I'm going through the same. I need to really put up with getting older, and it's really a difficult topic to chew, but it's happening. So we need to be grateful for being here, and being able to think and to do what we do. And yeah, it's the need for a shift of perspective, but it's difficult with the square. So yeah, I'm with you.
So we got to the end of it. I know it's almost a 2.5 hour video, guys, but I think there's a lot of gem in here. So I hope you have enjoyed it. Please show your gratitude by just liking it, sharing it, commenting on it. How do you feel about these 12 descriptions? You might want to be listening to your sun, moon, or rising sign. Definitely the rising sign is one of the most important ones. And if you would like to book a reading with Sweti, then 30% discount on her yearly forecast reading right now, only for 1 week. So the promotion is ending on 6th of January. So grab your place with her. Thank you for joining me today. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you, everyone. Always a pleasure too. And I'm looking forward to our next video. Hopefully this will become more regular already.
We should do that.
Yeah, we should do that. Definitely.
Take care, everyone. Have a good day and Happy New Year.
Yeah, happy